This is the Variety Show, 2024. I want to address, Christians quote that verse in the Bible about the end times where it says, "No man knows the day or the hour." They say that you can not be a date setter. You cannot set the date for when this is supposed to happen, the tribulation period, um, and um, and they keep pointing to you can't know the day or the hour, but they also point to signs. What is an end time sign? And they say it's earthquakes in diverse places. They say it's wars and rumors of wars. You look at Ukraine, you look at October 7th war in Israel, you look at the China-Taiwan tensions, the nuclear threats from Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and they point to that, saying it's a sign. They point to floods. They point to those huge hurricane storms in Florida and say these are all birth pangs intensifying, but at the same time they point to different signs. They keep going back to it, but we can't set a date specifically because it also says no man knows the day or the hour. So there seems to be a lot of confusion about that, and then I'm thinking, I'm thinking, if you could just point to one thing to know that it's close to the tribulation of the Bible, what is just one thing? What would be that sign? Would it be the Ukraine thing? What would it be? But I just think, of course, you can't set a date. You can't set a date. But I think the ultimate sign is probably the global food supply. I think that's the ultimate sign that that's the last domino that will fall. In other words, as long as the global food supply is functioning, we know the tribulation of the Antichrist is not here, because it says that you can't buy or sell anything, including food and goods and services. It says there will be a new money system. It says there'll be some kind of a mark of the beast that you must receive in order to have access to, in this new money system, to have access to food and other goods and services. So I think it's the global food supply is what I would point to, that as long as that's going, as long as that's functioning, um, that we still have time. But it could happen. But here's the thing: it could happen very quickly. It could happen overnight that we have a problem with food, and we've already seen some things affect it. Inflation, inflation. We see the menu prices that have skyrocketed in recent months. How expensive food has become at the grocery store. Everyday items at the grocery store. We saw that the COVID pandemic didn't shut down the food supply, but it affected it, and so did inflation, and so did other things. So it's certainly being affected by COVID, by inflation, by some of these crises. It has been affected. We've had supply chain problems. Again, not shutting down the food, but affecting it. We've had problems with the farmers and agriculture. Where does the food come from that goes to the grocery stores and restaurants? It comes from agriculture. It comes from crops. It comes from the farms. Where does it come from? Where do we get our food from? So certainly, if you're going to take over the world, you're gonna go after the food supply. That's what you're going to go after, and we're seeing the elites doing that. We're seeing the elites making at least making attempts to control our food and water supply. But as long as that's going, that's the last domino of what we do every day. Have dinner every day. I ask that question every day. What's for dinner? That's the first question I ask every day. What's for dinner today? I mean, there may be some future day where I'm going to have a problem asking that question. What's for dinner today? So I know that that's the last domino that's going to fall. Um, the the elites, or the United Nations, or the elites, or China, or Bill Gates, or whoever's trying to take over our farmland, or our food supply, where we get our food from, and our water and our food. They're saving that for last. All these crises of the past will be nothing because none of them none of them crashed the food. So I think, yeah, nobody knows the hour, but when the global food supply crashes, when we have a problem um, having food, when there's shortages and there's rations and it's so expensive you can't even afford it, because the Bible, if it's true, the scriptures are true, there comes a time where you can't work and you can't eat. You can't work, you can't eat. Your credit card and debit cards are failing. You can't use your plastic money, your credit cards. Your Bitcoin crypto is not going to help you. Your paper money is not going to help you. Your None of your stuff is good. You can't pump gas. You can't work. You can't eat. You can't travel. You can't um, vacation. You can't go on a cruise. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. Everything's shutting down. The stock market has crashed. But ultimately, that they're saving that for last. All these, you go back to 9/11. You go back to COVID. You go back to 2008 financial crash. You can look Biden in his inflation, worse than Jimmy Carter. You go back to Putin invading into Ukraine. You go back to October 7th and Israel. You look at the national debt. All the crises of the past, none of them completely shut down the global food supply. The global food supply is being saved for last. When you have a problem getting food, that's the end times. It's tribulation time. The alarm will go off for the tribulation when the global food supply crashes. This is the Variety Show, 2024.